Ever make a decision and then wonder, where did that come from? You're not alone.
Yeah.
We're diving into the world of the unconscious mind,
Right.
that hidden realm influencing way more than we realize.
Absolutely.
Think of it like the engine under the hood of your consciousness.
Okay.
You're in the driver's seat,
Mm-hmm.
but this deep dive, this is about understanding what's powering your journey.
It's a fascinating world.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get lost in metaphors like the iceberg analogy.
All right.
We only see the tip of our thoughts and motivations,
Okay.
but underneath, a vast submerged world driving our reactions and decisions.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Sure.
We've got some fascinating research to dig into.
Right.
But before we go full on neuroscience, I
Right.
have to ask,
Yeah.
where did this idea of the unconscious even come from?
It's a relatively recent concept in human history.
Really?
Think back to the late 19th,
Yeah.
early 20th century.
Okay.
Freud, with his theories of the ego
Yeah.
and superego,
Right.
was really onto something.
Okay.
He was trying to explain this internal struggle we all experience,
Yeah.
the primal urges battling with societal expectations and our own desire for rationality.
So that angel and devil on your shoulder thing.
Exactly.
Is that basically Freud 101?
In a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than just good versus bad.
Okay.
Freud tapped into this idea that there are forces at play within us that we aren't always aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Then came Carl Jung,
Okay.
who took the concept of the unconscious even further.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
He's the one with the whole collective unconscious theory, right? Like we're all connected by this shared reservoir of what exactly?
Think of it as a deep well of universal experiences,
Okay.
archetypes, and symbols passed down through generations. It's why certain myths and stories resonate across cultures.
Wow.
The hero's journey,
Right.
the battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
Those themes tap into something primal, something we all unconsciously recognize.
That's making me see those epic stories in a whole new light.
Yeah.
But how do those old theories hold up today? I mean, psychology's come a long way since Freud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While we may have moved beyond some of the specifics of those early theories, they were foundational in shaping how we understand the mind. Today, we have fields like cognitive psychology and neuroscience taking those early ideas and grounding them in scientific rigor.
So less about interpreting dreams and more about hard evidence. Give us the science.
It all comes down to how our brains process information. Take cognitive biases, for instance.
Okay.
They're essentially mental shortcuts, super efficient for making quick decisions,
Right.
but they can lead us down some interesting paths.
Okay, I need an example. I feel personally attacked by these shortcuts.
Think about the availability heuristic. Let's say you're deciding whether to fly or drive,
Okay.
and suddenly you remember a news report about a plane crash. Even though statistically flying is safer,
Right.
that vivid memory might make you opt for a road trip.
Wow.
Your brain prioritizes readily available information,
Okay.
even if it's not the most accurate.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just me being irrational.
Right.
It's my brain trying to be helpful.
Exactly. Another example,
Yeah.
confirmation bias.
Okay.
We tend to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Right.
Ever notice how you gravitate towards news sources that align with your political views?
Oh, yeah.
That's your unconscious mind trying to maintain consistency.
So our brains are wired to find evidence for what they already believe.
Right.
No wonder those online arguments never seem to go anywhere. But it's not all news feeds and heuristics, right?
Yes, yeah.
What about those moments when we're influenced by something we don't even consciously register?
Yeah.
Like subliminal messaging? Is that
Yeah.
real?
Well,
Or just marketing hype?
it's more than hype. Subliminal perception is a fascinating example of how our brains pick up on information
Okay.
below our conscious awareness.
Interesting.
Think about those split-second flashes of images in movies.
Right.
Or even just walking past a billboard.
Okay.
Your unconscious mind is processing it,
Wow.
even if you don't realize it.
Okay. That's both cool and kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So what's the upside? We've covered biases.
Right.
But are there times when these unconscious processes actually help us out?
Absolutely. Think about habit formation.
Okay.
Your morning routine, the way you navigate to work.
Right.
Those are all orchestrated by your unconscious mind,
Okay.
freeing up your conscious mind for more complex tasks.
So my brain is basically like a really efficient personal assistant.
Yes.
I can get behind that. But if it's so good at automating things, can we actually change those habits once they're formed?
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Our brains are incredibly adaptable, constantly rewiring themselves through a process called neuroplasticity.
Okay.
It means we're not stuck with our habits or thought patterns.
Neuroplasticity, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
How does it actually work in the context of, say, breaking a bad habit?
Let's say you want to stop reaching for your phone first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Every time you resist that urge
Right.
and consciously choose to do something different,
Yeah.
read a book,
Mm-hmm.
meditate,
Yeah.
you're strengthening new neural pathways in your brain.
So it's like building a new mental muscle through repetition.
Exactly. The more you use those new pathways, the stronger they become.
Right.
And the easier it becomes to override those old automatic responses.
Right.
And it's not just about individual habits.
Okay.
This applies to our beliefs and thought patterns as well.
So we have the power to rewire those ingrained thought patterns too.
Yes.
That's empowering.
It is.
But let's be honest, you know, sometimes it feels like we're working against ourselves.
Right.
Like there's a part of us that's afraid of success or change.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit into all of this?
You're describing self-sabotage, and unfortunately, it's something many of us grapple with. It often stems from deep-seated fears or limiting beliefs that operate outside of our awareness.
Okay, so how do we identify those hidden beliefs?
Yeah.
Is it a matter of digging deep into our psyche?
Sometimes it's about paying closer attention to our behavior.
Okay.
Do you procrastinate on projects?
Mm-hmm.
Do you shy away from opportunities that could lead to growth?
Right.
Those could be signs that your unconscious mind is holding you back.
So self-awareness is key.
Yes.
But what do we do once we've identified those self-sabotaging tendencies?
Right.
How do we actually start changing them?
This is where tools like cognitive restructuring come in.
Okay.
It's about challenging those negative or limiting beliefs and replacing them with more helpful ones. Imagine that inner critic saying, you're not good enough.
Right.
Instead of accepting that as truth, ask yourself, is that really true?
Right.
What evidence do I have to support that?
It's like arguing back with that negative voice in your head and giving it a reality check.
Precisely. The more you practice reframing those thoughts, the more you're actively changing those unconscious patterns.
Okay.
Of course, it's not always easy to do this on our own.
Right.
Therapy can be incredibly helpful for uncovering and transforming those deeply ingrained patterns.
It's starting to feel like we have more control than we realize. We've talked a lot about individual brains, but I'm curious, how does all of this unconscious processing play out in our social lives?
That's where things get really interesting. Think about social conformity.
Okay.
Humans are wired to want to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a survival instinct.
Okay.
And this desire to belong can influence our behavior in powerful ways.
Like when everyone else is laughing at a joke and you laugh along even though you didn't get it.
Or think about how easily we pick up on social cues like body language or tone of voice.
Yeah.
Those are all processed unconsciously, shaping our interactions in subtle but significant ways.
It's almost like our unconscious minds are in a constant conversation with the people around us.
In a way, they are. And marketers know this all too well.
Oh, really?
They become experts at tapping into our unconscious desires and fears to influence our buying decisions.
Okay, spill the tea. How do they do it?
Ever notice how certain brands just make you feel a certain way? That's emotional branding at work.
Okay.
They're not just selling you a product. They're selling you a feeling, an identity, an aspiration. And they do it by tapping into those unconscious associations we have with colors.
Wow.
Sound?
Smells.
Oh.
So that's why I suddenly need that new fragrance.
Right.
It's not just about smelling good.
Yeah.
It's about feeling sophisticated or adventurous.
Precisely. Our unconscious minds crave those shortcuts.
Okay.
It's how we navigate a world overflowing with information.
Yeah.
But this desire for quick decisions can also make us vulnerable to manipulation if we're not careful.
It's like our brains are wired for connection and meaning, but those same instincts can be used against us. So what's the takeaway here? How do we stay mindful in a world that's constantly vying for our unconscious attention?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And it's something we'll continue to explore as we dive deeper into this fascinating world within.
It's almost like there's this whole other world, like operating beneath the surface, influencing our choices, our habits, even our sense of self.
Absolutely.
It's a little unnerving when you think about it.
Definitely a lot to process. But here's the good news. Becoming aware of these unconscious influences is the first step towards harnessing their power for positive change.
Okay.
It's not about conquering the unconscious, but about becoming more conscious co-pilots on this journey of life.
I like that, becoming a co-pilot.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that? If our brains are so good at running on autopilot, how do we interrupt those patterns and start making more intentional choices?
Mindfulness is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment. It's like shining a light on those automatic reactions and patterns so we can start to understand them better.
So it's about hitting the pause button before reacting.
Yes.
Noticing those urges or impulses without necessarily acting on them.
Exactly. And with practice, mindfulness helps us create a space between those unconscious impulses and our conscious responses. It gives us the power to choose a different path rather than just reacting on autopilot.
That makes sense. But what about those deeply ingrained beliefs we talked about earlier?
Right.
The ones driving self-sabotage.
Yeah.
How do we tackle those?
Remember cognitive restructuring.
Yeah.
It's about directly challenging those limiting beliefs.
Okay.
Let's say you have a fear of public speaking. Instead of letting that fear control, you ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen?
Okay.
Often, our fears are rooted in irrational thoughts that we haven't examined closely.
So it's about questioning those thoughts, testing them against reality, and then actively replacing them with more empowering beliefs.
That's the idea. It takes effort and practice. But over time, you can retrain your brain to default to those new, more positive thought patterns. Think about it like this. Each time you challenge a limiting belief and choose a different course of action, you're essentially rewiring your brain for greater resilience and success.
It's empowering to know we have that ability to rewire our brains, but let's be honest. Sometimes it feels like we need more than just willpower to make lasting change. Are there other tools or techniques that can support this process of transformation?
Absolutely. Therapy can be incredibly helpful, providing a safe and supportive space to explore those deep-seated patterns and develop personalized strategies for change. And don't underestimate the power of supportive relationships. Surrounding yourself with people who believe in your potential can make a world of difference.
Like having a cheerleading squad for your unconscious mind.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there a final thought? A parting piece of wisdom you can leave our listeners with?
Your unconscious mind is a powerful ally. Even if it doesn't always seem that way. By understanding its language, its patterns, and its potential, you can tap into its incredible wisdom and creativity. So be curious. Be patient with yourself and trust that you have everything you need to create the life you desire.
This has been such an illuminating exploration into the hidden depths of who we are.
It has.
It's amazing to think that beneath the surface of our everyday awareness lies this vast and fascinating world, shaping our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of the unconscious mind. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the wonders of your own extraordinary mind.